Hi, and welcome to my new episode, which will be on Mercury. Mercury, our mindset. And Mercury is the planet of intellect. So, we want to talk about Mercury, and I have prepared some slides to show you astronomically, astrologically, and symbolically what you can expect from Mercury in your birth chart. So, let's start. We have our astrology. And astrology is a very, very old tool, which goes back to pre Christian times, originating in China, India, and Mesopotamia. To have a little bit of an insight in the medieval times, in the 16th century, for example, we have astrologia from the Greek, which means star, and logos, lesson. So this combines the astronomical events and constellations with processes on the earth. This is how they see astrology classically in the beginning of the 3rd century after Christ was born during the Hellenism times. I talked a lot about some episodes which you can watch afterwards in this podcast. In Europe, we have an eventful history about astrology. It goes up and down. So, for example, in the 17th century, astrology was tightly connected to astronomy. So, there was a bit of a lack of plausibility. In the 18th century, the natural astrology gained importance in regards to weather, agriculture, and medicine influences. So it means macro and microcosm, as above, so below. In the 19th century, we have astrology regained a serious importance with the words I want to throw in here, theosophy and occultism. Now, in the 20th century, where we are now, we have focus on personal horoscopes. Today, in the Western Hemisphere, we distinguish roughly between radix, election, and synastry horoscopes. This is a bit of an introduction, and now we start right into Mercury. Mercury is a planet which is small and very near in the solar system to the Sun. Its orbit around the Sun takes 87 Earth days, the shortest of all the Sun planets. It is named after the Roman god Mercurius, Mercury, god of commerce, messenger of the gods, and mediator between gods and mortal, corresponding to the Greek god Hermes, which is also the sacred messenger. So the planet, as you can see here, is circling around the Sun, and we have it very close. So like Venus, Mercury orbits the Sun within the Earth's orbit as an inferior or interplanet. And its apparent distance from the Sun is viewed from Earth never exceeds 28 degrees. This proximity to the Sun means the planet can only be seen near the western horizon after sunset or the eastern horizon before sunrise, so it's usually in twilight. It becomes retrograde 3 times a year for around 24 days, and we have just before a retrograde happens on the 15th in the sign of Aries. So we are still in the stationing phase at this time for the full moon, where I do publish this video. In the chart, Mercury cannot be more than 28 degrees apart from our sun sign, as I said, very close. So, for example, that means when you have the Sun in Aquarius, the Mercury can only be in Aquarius itself or in one of the neighboring signs, which would be one before Capricorn or one ahead, Pisces. So you can look into your chart where you find your Mercury. Mercury in the mythology. It's related to the Latin word merx, merchandise. That means merchant, commerce, and all that has to do with that. Mercari, to trade, and merces, wages. From the beginning, Mercury had essentially the same aspects as Hermes, wearing winged shoes, talaria, and winged head. You can see that here, Pegasus. He was often accompanied by a rooster, you can see it here, herald of the new day, and a ram or a goat, you can see it here in the picture, symbolizing fertility, and a tortoise, which I cannot see in the picture, but perhaps you are able to, referring to Mercury's legendary invention of the lure from a tortoise shell. It's the god of messages, eloquence, and of trade, especially grain trade in the older days. Patron of travelers and god of thievery as well. It's the god of abundance and commercial success. So we also associate with money, with gaining in commerce and gaining in our business. So it becomes very, very important. And we can also relate to the messenger services which we have nowadays, which is all very Mercury influence, let's say. Okay, Mercury in astrology now. Mercury has a kind of double meaning because there are two zodiac signs which are associated or ruled by Mercury. So they are slightly different in these two signs. One is the Gemini, which is symbolized here, and the other is Virgo, which is symbolized with this sign you can see here. This double meaning is based on these archetypes and can be interpreted in a chart, of course. So when we have more a Virgo-focused Mercury instead of a Gemini-based Mercury. We all have Mercury in a sign, that's clear, which is the land, and in a house, which I call city, as well as Gemini and Virgo are somewhere in your chart, whether they include some planets, Mercury or other planets or not. The specific quality of Mercury can be identified individually. So when I see a birth chart, we can still distinguish if we have more this Virgo Mercury or the more Gemini interpretation of Mercury. In principle, we differentiate the quick and spontaneous intellectual property in the sign of Gemini towards the analytical and observative mindset of Virgo. You can think about that, whether you resonate more with one or the other, or it may be also that you change all the time in your mindset and that you have sometimes more this eloquent and very fast intellect and sometimes more this methodical and natural instinct-based mindset of a Virgo. So this is a little introduction of Mercury, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you want a personal reading, you can ask me always, or you can go to my website, which is also included in all the slides, or you can drop me an email. I'm very happy to present these kind of readings for the planets, and it will go on with the next time when we have the next full moon. See you then, and have a nice Virgo or Mercury retrograde time. See you. Bye-bye.